was horribly dark for a long time. I had resentments at a very young age and discovered alcohol and marijuana, a little bit of wacky tobacco, at 13, in and out of treatment centers and IOP. But it turns out my folks paid $500,000 for a $10 big book.
Rehabs, attorney bills, bailouts. Coincidentally, I got sober the same way, which was by an $8 big book, in the end.
My addiction was absolutely like sex with a gorilla. When you have sex with a gorilla, the sex isn't over until the gorilla says it's over. Alcohol and drugs screwed me every time.
Hi there, and welcome to the Recovery Crew here at Deep Waters. I'm Dr. Bob Beare, the recovery and trauma guy. Today we welcome Alan Jones, who's going to tell his story. He is the clinical director and founder of Actions Wellness Group, and has a great story from. There's some beautiful dark. One of the phrases we use in recovery rooms is that our dark past is our greatest possession, and because we can help others, we can save others' lives by letting them know how close to death some of us came. So Alan's pretty good at telling the story, but also being in the solution. So our co-host today is Cole Shiflet. Those of you that have seen our show before know that he's a pretty juicy character too. So it's going to be fun today. All right, you're in the deep waters now.
All right, fellas, there's a couple of juicy characters. There is Cole Shiflet. He's already part of the Recovery Crew. He's the co-host today. Hi, Cole.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Bob.
And there,
AJ, I love you. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you, brother. Is that where you live, or is that some phony background?
I'm showing off my new backyard.
Nice.
And a new house that we bought after 15 years. And so I've been displaced living at my mother-in-law's house and my mom's house for a couple of months. So this is amazing.
Nice. That's therapeutic, isn't it? Staying with your mother-in-law and your mom. Yeah. And there is Alan Jones, who we've been dancing, trying to get you on this show for a long time. Alan Jones has a story of stories, and I don't mean to put too much pressure on you, brother, but welcome.
It's great to be here, Doc. How you doing? Cole, it's good to see you, pal.
Alan, it's good to see you. I got to do a little quip for you. I've told you before, you're one of my heroes. I couldn't have more respect for both of you guys in this industry for what y'all stand for, what y'all do, and the motive in which you do it. I love both of you guys.
Well,
appreciate that, buddy.
Well, that's a bonus. We've all just for folks that are just checking out the Recovery Crew. We are three guys that happen to know each other pretty well, and both of these guys, Alan and Cole, are real leaders in the industry in Central Texas. And Central Texas, if anybody's listening to this from outside of this area, is a pretty vibrant place for treatment and what I refer to as the real deal style of treatment, which is, we'll find out a little bit more today from these guys. So welcome, gentlemen. Nicole, the program manager of Deep Waters Recovery, is with us here. I think she's going to come on the screen and give a little information about how to get a hold of us and what we're up to here at Deep Waters Recovery. Hi, Nicole.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Bob. Deep Waters Recovery is an advanced recovery and healing experience for men and women. The Deep Waters Intensives are 3-day trauma resolution and empowerment trainings. If you would like to bring the sustainable trauma resolution into your curriculum or of your facility, the Deep Waters Intensive and integration groups might be a good fit. If you'd like more information about the programs or this podcast, you can reach us at deepwatersrecovery.com. Our direct number is 512-677-7847. Again, that's 512-677-7847. You can also reach us at admin@deepwatersrecovery.com. We post weekly blogs from our community. Our podcast comes out weekly, and you can follow us on all the social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. On YouTube, we are the Recovery Crew. And I think I covered everything. Maybe I probably left some stuff out, but
no, that was it. the date, March 26, 2021. Are we in 2021? That sounds like the way out in the future somewhere, but nope, we're in 2021. March 26th and 27th is the facilitation, experiential facilitator training. It's the and it's also a place for anybody who works with groups to learn how to use these tools, mostly psychodrama, bioenergetics, gestalt tools, to get people moving, to get that trauma moving so that you can discharge it. So the first one in 2021 is March 26th, and you can sign up at our website. There's a certification process associated with that as well. All right, and I'm going to stop talking about all that stuff because I want to hear what Alan has to say. Alan Jones is a licensed chemical dependency counselor. The state of Texas thinks he knows what he's doing, but I know that he knows what he's doing because I've heard his heart before. And he has a bunch of other letters after his name that he can refer to if you want to. Director of Clinical Services at Actions Wellness Group, interventionist, worked in all aspects of addiction treatment. And the main thing that Alan's up to is that he helps people take the tools that they learn in treatment and bring it into their life in a real active way. That might just sound like some gobbledygook, but it's not. It's actually a lot of times in treatment, people think that's the end. And Alan does better than anyone helping people bring that in and making a lifestyle out of it. So, but, you know, Cole, you and I know nobody can do anything that they don't have themselves. Alan's recovery is hard won. He's had some really good, what is that? My dark past is my greatest, what is it? What's that quote? My dark past is my greatest possession, I think. And so Alan has some great darkness, but one of the lightest, juiciest characters I know. So welcome, Alan. This is your time to just tell your story and what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Welcome, brother.
I've got to tell you, thank you for the intro. I'm absolutely honored to be here. And, you know, amongst two of my friends that I look up to in this deal. And, you know, I try daily to present to the world what I want to be. And oftentimes I fall short, but it's not without effort. And I appreciate you guys for A, holding me accountable, and B, holding me up when I do fall short. So thanks. I'm glad to be here and tell you a little bit of the darkness. And I got to be honest, it was horribly dark for a long time, and I'm just so grateful that it doesn't have to be anymore. But that's through a lot of hard work, and you guys know that work really well. So I came from a loving, caring family. I've got a mother and father that up until the first of this year were still together. My dad unfortunately passed away on January 1st of this year, and a big void, a big vacuum right there. But I'll get to that in just a little bit. But grew up in a really loving family for a long time. I've got a wonderful sister who she's older than I am, but she tried to show me the ropes, and she tried to take me down a good path, just like my folks did. And my family growing up was not without its faults, for sure. And I come from a modest upbringing. We as children, I always had what I needed to be successful and well cared for. I didn't always have what I wanted. And I think, that's part of my story is I want what I want when I want it. And it didn't always work out like that. And so I had resentments at a very young age. And I discovered alcohol and marijuana, a little bit of wacky tobacco, at 13. and started on this journey. And I knew right away, guys, listen, I mean, I'm probably preaching to the choir, man, but I knew right away that I had shifted into a different arena. All at once I fit in, and that's what I had longed for. You know, all these formative years that people talk about. You know, 5 to probably 15. You know, I felt like I did not belong, and part of that was because I wore glasses. Part of that was because I didn't wear all the designer label clothes, and I knew that, and kids let me know it, and so I was separated, you know, from the herd, if you will. But more than anything, this thing right here separated me from the herd.
You were an athlete too, like from a young age, like, right? I mean, like,
yeah, no,
I had all the characteristics to fit in.
I tell you, I was I was stupidly gifted from a very young age. I came in third in the nation as an 8-year-old with this thing called pump, pass, and kick. It was goofy how much ability I had from a very young age, and you know, my dad sort of fostered that, and again, this thing wants to separate itself, and while it's right, wrong, or indifferent, it was my truth, and I didn't fit in anywhere I went. And so at 13, when I discovered the drugs and alcohol, I fit in right away.
Yeah.
And what I really discovered was I could laugh at myself before you laughed at me, which made it a lot easier for me. And one of my sort of coping mechanisms is always laughter. So fast forward a little bit, I extremely gifted. Yeah, you're right, Cole. And I threw a baseball incredibly hard. I didn't always know where it was going.
Hard out of curiosity. 95.
Well, I sat at 93, 94. I touched 98 a few times.
God bless.
But again, I didn't always know where it was going. I mean, I was a wild child. But to me, that wasn't my problem, right? I mean, I don't care. You got to figure that out, man. I'm just going to throw it up there. You figure out if you can get it.
Yeah, but both of you men are superstar athletes, or have.
You don't have to. Here's the deal. You don't have to know where the ball's going. You're throwing 95 miles an hour.
That's right.
Right down the pipe or anywhere. They ain't swinging at it. If they do, they are getting in their pants.
I'm aware of. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
I'm aware of who I'm talking to here. The interviewer here, Cole Shiflett, is a superstar athlete as well. But in both cases, I know both of your stories. And I was a gifted, incredibly gifted actor and singer, and all. It wasn't enough to overcome this hole that I had inside of me. And I had the same thing, Alan. I found drugs, alcohol, and then later sex, and but just on and on. It filled the hole for a moment.
Yep. Right? Yeah, no, and you're exactly right. And this is the problem that I discovered personally was it was never enough.
Right.
And that's what led me into the sort of darkness and the more sort of dangerous chemicals. You know, it starts with drugs and alcohol, but it for me, it always ends in the deep, dark gutters of the world. And you know, when I was 19 and they took the scholarship away from me, and I went to my first rehab through parent guidance. My folks made me go to rehab at 19. It was my first trip to rehab, and I did not want to be there, and sort of went through the motions. And I talk about this even today, that I did everything as a checklist. So you wanted me to do all of these things, and I got them done pretty quickly. And so I thought that, you know, okay, we're done. You know, just like we were talking about earlier, you give me a few tools, I understand what's going on. I'll see you later. I got this under control.
Yeah.
And that was far from the case. And I was in my second treatment center by the time I was 22. And we're talking about a history of in and out of treatment centers and IOPs and just all of these different programs. And again, coming from the loving family that I come from, like we all thought, and I say we, my family thought that we could throw money at this deal and have it go away. And that's just not the case. I mean, it turns out as it's been mentioned before, but it turns out my folks paid $500,000 for a $10 big book, you know.
I can't believe you said that. That's, you know, in one treatment center, I had to do that, you know, absorb costs by my families. And this was, and I still had 2 rehabs to go, but that number was $500,000 when you're looking at rehabs, attorney bills, bailouts, you know, and all this stuff, you know, lost wages and all that. And so it's crazy you said that, because I had that same experience. I went to my first rehab when I was 18. I was 18. I think I turned 19 in rehab, second one at 21 right there. And it's, as you know, it ain't expensive. Coincidentally, I got sober the same way, which was by an $8 big book, you know, in the end.
Yep.
And for people that may not know exactly what you guys are talking about, listen to this. If they're not insiders like you guys, the big book is the main text of Alcoholics Anonymous that you get at every treatment center. They're gonna, or not everyone actually. Yeah, actually, which don't get me started. But and I think that's your way of saying that the solution is in the rooms, in those 12-step recovery rooms, not necessarily in $500,000 worth of therapists and what they think can address addiction.
It certainly was for me. And I got to tell you that not to, I don't want to knock any of those, because I'm now one of those, right? All these, you talk about all these letters behind my name. None of them really mean anything, and they all mean something, obviously. But you know, treatment for me is great because it actually separates me from the chemicals.
Yeah.
And you know, it allows me to understand that there are like people just like me that have sort of similar problems and sort of horrible solutions that are very similar. So I've got all these problems of Bob, you're talking about money, sex, rock and roll, and I've got a terrible solution to all those problems in the chemicals and
same brain. I'm trying to figure out the solution with the same brain that got me into the.
That's right. That's right. It never worked.
What was the kind of treatment that, because you're an expert, you became an expert in different kinds of treatment, right? What's the one thing in treatment that's most effective, or that was for you?
I think the one thing that was most effective for me was the centers would allow outside people coming in and would hear stories of what I say are people like me.
Yeah.
In other words, I wasn't hearing the therapist tell me what the problem was. I heard the people that came in without all the letters behind their name. I heard them tell my story. And I think that was what was most effective for me personally.
Do you mind? I happen to have the big book open to a page right here that I think is relevant. Can I just read something from here? This is page 124. It says, showing others who suffer how we were given help is the very thing which makes life seem so worthwhile to us now. Cling to the thought that in God's hands, the dark past is the greatest possession you have. The key to life and happiness for others. With it, you can avert death and misery for them. Man, that's gold or what?
It's me between the eyes, and I've heard it countless times, but every time you hear it, it's just bam.
Yeah, and sort of, that's, when I stop long enough to really start to hear what people are saying, not just listen to what they're saying, but actually hear what they're saying, and what they were reaching me with had depth and weight, meaning it actually meant something to me. I could feel their energy. I could understand their empathy, and I heard them speaking to me about very similar problems. And then, it also, you were reading from that book again, and it says in there the simple set of tools that were laid at our feet. I mean, and nobody beat me over the head with it. Nobody pointed their finger in my chest this time. They said, look, either you're going to, get with this program or you're not, but we really wish you would, because some of that dark stuff that I have is really relevant to helping other people.
Yeah.
And
You believe the most relevant.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and so we fast forward to, in and out of jail, in and out of prison. And so I'm standing in front of a judge. I'm 39 when I finally get sober. And, that 13 to 39, that's 26 years of active addiction. And really, I claim 20 years, 19, it started at 13. But when I fully thought about it, I started at 19 saying, I got a problem. I can say that easily enough, but I never believed it. And so at 39, when I'm standing in front of that judge for the last time, or what I know now will be the last time, unless I'm helping somebody else out. But I'm standing in front of that judge, and he says, look, buddy, you either go back to the penitentiary or you go back to treatment. Now, that's a no-brainer for me. I'm going back to treatment because I don't do very well in the penitentiary. I just, you want to talk about not fitting in. I mean, gosh dang, I didn't fit in there just as easily as I didn't fit in anywhere. And in there, I had the same sort of coping mechanism. There were more drugs in prison than there were out here on the street. They just cost more money. So at 39, when I'm going back into treatment for the 9th time, this kid that came in, he was 23 at the time, and he came into that detox room, and he cut me to shreds. I was sitting there. I didn't want to have anything to do with his meeting. I'm 39, he's 23. I'm not listening to this kid at all. But in my clumsy effort to not listen to the kid, I really wasn't paying attention to what was happening in that room. And the meeting sort of ended, and everybody left the room except for me. I was sort of, stuck on stupid, and he cornered me, and he got right in my face, and he said, look, what's wrong with you? I said, there's nothing wrong with me. And he said it again. He asked me again. He said, what's wrong with you? And I said, listen, pal, other than the fact that you're in my face right now, and I really wish you'd bounce up off of me, there ain't nothing wrong with me. And he finally asked me for the 3rd and final time. He said, what is wrong with you? And I told him, I said, I can't leave. If I leave, I go back to prison, and I don't want to be here. Like I'm stuck. Like and I told him really clearly. I remember it as it was just this bottle of water. I said, I can teach your class. I've been to treatment 8 times before. This is my 9th time in treatment. I can tell you everything you're about to say, and I don't want to be here, but I can't.
And that serves as a roadblock. It certainly did for me, to where I thought I knew so much about it, but I didn't really understand how to do it. In fact, I mean, I was recently like up in Kentucky doing this deep workshop, and I was very honest about it. I was like, I feel like I'm going to be 2 steps ahead of you guys because I've done, so much of this, and it almost kind of would block me from allowing for the experience.
Yeah.
And I don't know, luckily even saying like that, being honest about that, I think it helped to like have this recent experience that I had up in Kentucky. But I feel like that was the one thing to where I was doing, because I was like, I know this stuff better than you do, and I still can't stay sober because of it. So whatever hand I was dealt is obviously not the same one you were dealt, because it looks pretty simple for you, and I can't do it. I felt a lot safer when I was locked up or in places and all that than the outside. I mean, I was scared shitless of myself.
Yeah.
But what one of the cool things about that is, they don't say at the end of these meetings, keep coming back. It works if you know it. And what I'm discovering on
you got to say the rest of it, Alan. You got to say the rest of it for folks that are listening.
Oh no, yeah, no, it's keep coming back. It works if you work it.
That's right. That's right. And it works for everyone that works it. It's 100%.
Everybody,
100%.
Listen, in 14 years,
you don't put too much stock in that answer till you really think about that answer and how true it is.
That's right.
If you work it, big word. If.
Yeah.
Most of us smart guys, and we're all very smart and humble, think that we can figure the shit out, right?
Yeah, and I did, and I'll tell you, being removed and on this side of the journey, understanding that there are so many layers to my onion that I've yet to peel through, and this sort of discovery process. And this kid, took me on a journey I'll never forget. I'm truly grateful that he did it. And I'm blessed that he was in my life. But we walked through the 12 steps in 30 days, and we bumbled through them, man. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I didn't do them perfectly then, and I'm not doing them perfectly today.
Mm-hmm.
But I do them as best as I can, and I have a lot of great people around me that I allow to pull me by the ear and tell me when I'm messing up. And luckily enough for me, they do that.
Before you say that, like, because it's the same for me, like, I didn't do it perfectly. I don't do it perfectly now, but you come to find out eventually, like, that is perfect. When you're talking about recovery, which is an imperfect process, you got to have some layer of consistency, even through the inconsistency of it. If you keep going, that in itself is consistent. Like, imperfection is perfect, if you keep doing it, basically. In this, that's kind of all it was required, is my experience, is just to keep going. Then that's perfect.
Yeah, the thing, before we get too far away from that point that you made, Alan, about being stuck, no matter which way I go, pardon the expression, but I'm fucked. It's the same story of the founding of the solution to alcoholism. After thousands of years, finally in the 30s, this guy went over to Dr. Jung, Roland, met Dr. Jung, paid him a lot of money. He probably paid him the equivalent of $500,000. I don't know. But eventually Jung said, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do for you.
He did not give him a shred of hope.
He went to the best doctor on the planet, right? Like we all have. Please fix me, right? Help me figure this shit out. And, until we get to the point that we're hurting enough to not know some shit and listen to a 23-year-old, that's when it starts. And then if we can stay in long enough to get it in our bodies and then share our dark past with other people, that's the magic. There's no clinical intervention that does that.
That's right. And one of the coolest things that I still remember to this day, and I use it as often as I can, what the kid said is he was giving me a 6-year plan on my 6-minute mindset. And if I could just stay still long enough, I could have peace and quiet in my mind. And that's what I was looking for. You talk about that F word, and I don't know if I can. I want to say it so bad, but For me,
We've already gone way over that line here.
Listen, and somebody way cooler than me said this before me, and I'm gonna steal it. But my addiction was absolutely like sex with a gorilla.
Yeah.
That's
And,
hot.
and, you know, when you have sex with a gorilla, the sex isn't over until the gorilla says it's over. Right?
Yeah.
And then I get the gorilla back in the cage somehow, and he's looking at me with those loving eyes. You know, he's like, come on, let me out of there. I won't do it to you again. And I let him out, and alcohol and drugs screwed me every time. And I just never saw that. You know, I never paid attention to those sort of quote unquote teachings that everybody along my journey was trying to give me, the police officers, the parents, my sister, like everybody on my journey was trying to teach me that this wasn't the way to go. And I just wouldn't hear it. And that's
It was
unfortunate.
autopilot. You just go that way. You don't want to go that way. They don't want you to go that way, but everything like instinctually, it's just like you gravitate towards everything that is going to kill you. Like it just happens. There's no diverting it.
Yep. And so we get to 39, and I'm sitting just before I walk into that treatment center, and you know, the judge has already done his thing, and this is right before the kid has gotten a hold of me, and I broke into my parents' house. They didn't want to have anything to do with me anymore, and God love them, man. By that time, they had found Al-Anon, and I hated Al-Anon, you know.
I hate it when that happens.
And so I broke into my folks' house. My daddy, he kept a revolver right under the bed, and it was protection and self-defense. But I stole that revolver and I loaded it myself, put it to my head, and I pulled the trigger. You know, I did not want to die. I didn't know what else to do. You know, just in and out of these rehabs, and here I go back into these rehabs, and I got to go back into these rooms, you know, these 12 steps on the wall, and it just, I was so done. I didn't want to do it, and I tried to end my life that day, and you know, we can argue this till the cows come home. I don't know why the gun didn't go off. I don't care why the gun didn't go off. I know today that there's a different purpose for my life, and that's why the gun didn't go off. But back then I put the gun down and I said, man, I can't even do this right. And these crocodile tears coming down my eyes, and just I was done. I had given up in that moment, but I wasn't ready to give up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so when I got to the treatment center and that kid got a hold of me, I was still fighting him, you know, but he said quite clearly, after I told him, you know, I didn't want to be there, and we ran through that whole rigmarole, he laughed at me and he said, listen, he said, you give me 30 days honest effort. If at the end of these 30 days, your life doesn't drastically shift, I will give you your misery back, and we can part as friends.
Was he a client there, or was he a staff?
No, he was a kid that came in and was carrying the message.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and what listen, I've got to be honest. I've got another disease called selective hearing.
Yeah, it's the same disease. Sorry.
And what I heard that kid say was, in 30 days, when this shit doesn't work, we're gonna release you from this cult called AA, and you can go on about your business.
Yeah.
And I thought, no problem, bro, sign me up. And that kid and I went on a journey. In the next 30 days, he would come back out to that institution where I was on several different occasions, and he raced me through those 12 steps. and I
Yeah.
he saved my life.
Yeah.
He saved my life.
Yeah.
And it just, his knowledge that I didn't have time to screw with this anymore. His at 23 years old, so far ahead of his time in my eyes, that he knew an old man like me didn't have time to mess with this anymore. I needed to get through this, and I needed to get through it fast, and I needed to see some kind of results, so that I could carry on.
Yeah.
Like and I had instant results. You know, I'm sitting, this center I was at had a propane tank, and very clearly on the propane tank it said no smoking. So at the time I had 5 of them going at once. You know how we do it in treatment, right? You can take away my cocaine, but you can't take away my cigarettes, Dave.
Yeah.
I was smoking up a storm. I was a broke chimney, and one of the techs come outside and he said, "You can't smoke right there." And okay, no problem. And I turned around, and as I turned around, I noticed that the sun was coming up over the horizon, and it was just beautiful. And by this time, you know, clarity had come in, and I was a little sober. I remember saying out loud, and this is where I kind of get in trouble sometimes, but I remember very clearly saying out loud as I looked to the heavens, I said, "Motherfucker, I need help."
That's a good prayer.
I mean, and listen, the something happened to me in that moment. And I describe it as an internal shower, where it felt like someone turned the water on here, and inside it just rained. And I ran back in that treatment center and locked myself in my bathroom, because I didn't want anybody to see me crying. You know, and
is that your first time to ever have any kind of like, and all those treatment episodes and all that stuff? Because no doubt that you wanted to get sober before, you know, that last one, but seemingly, you know, you're incurable. But did you ever feel anything like that from something bigger than yourself prior to that?
Never. I tell you, it's funny you mentioned that, and I'll try to do this as easily as I can. It's the first time ever in my life that I shut this thing off and opened this thing up. It's the first time that it ever happened. And we're talking, I used to pitch, we talked about that I'm not giving up. I want to win. I think, and this is my mentality all through all of these years, through 39 years of my life, my mentality is, I am the one who is going to win this. It's up to me.
Yeah.
And for the first time in my life, I shut that thing down, and I opened up the heart, and I was out of options. I was out of ideas.
And that's what I think is crazy, because I'm a lot the same way, where it's just like, I am going to win. I'm going to beat it. I will never quit. Like, I will figure this, you know, thing out. But what's paradoxical is that I didn't even get close to what you could describe as, I guess, winning in recovery until I quit. You know, like, to where I, as the book would say, the big book, I ceased, you know, completely, you know, fighting. It was, and I clearly remember the thing of like, I knew that I was a slave, and I could never, and that I was always going to be a slave. And that was the most lonely feeling in the world, to when I knew with every fiber of my being that I could not beat it. Not only that, but it would gorilla fuck me, you know, every time. It made me feel so powerless, you know, is the best word for it. But because like you guys, I feel like I'm the smartest person in every room that I go into. Plus, I'm competitive as shit. I don't have quit bone in me, but only when I was, it's like addiction finally, in this thing to where it broke me, and I'm unbreakable. Like I don't quit. It finally broke me in every which way. And paradoxically, that's when I began the process of healing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It blows my mind.
Absolutely. And we like I said, we went on this journey together. He spoke my language, that this idea of powerless and unmanageable that I did not understand at all. I'm thinking powerless, is I can whip your ass, and I've had my ass whipped a ton of times, but I'm not scared. We're going to fight. And that was the mentality. He said, no, man, if you're looking at it wrong. And he shifted my eyeballs. And I do this quite a bit. He allowed me to see from this angle what I was looking at. And he told me to look at things in a different way.
And Alan,
so that's what I did.
Alan, and so, when I asked you before, what was the difference? And you said bringing people in from the outside, right? I know when I got in recovery, I was in so much pain. I just immersed myself in meetings. I didn't go to treatment. I was just back-to-back meetings for I don't even know how long. 90 and 90 was like, what are you talking about? I need more than that. So I just immersed myself and I had a sponsor that was in all three of my main things that were going to kill me. And he worked me through the steps really early, man, when I was hurting. And so I just want to kind of throw that out there, that the steps themselves, when we work them, will do all of this shit that we're just talking about. Even on a tough case like Cole Shiflet, even on
I'm no Alan Jones, okay? I'm not nearly that fucked up, or you, Dr. Bob. Come on, I'm bad.
Hey, Bob.
Bad.
So here's what I know about both of you. I know Cole, for instance, started a treatment center here in Central Texas that is maybe the premier place where when they are in treatment, they get a guy like that 23-year-old that takes them through the steps in an intense way. We call it 12-step immersion and completion. And these, in my experience, I don't send anybody anywhere that's not doing that. The rest of it, sue me, but it's bullshit. For addiction, I mean, there's a lot of other good healing stuff, but if you're trying to arrest the disease of addiction, no one has found anything that really works other than immersion in this in a spiritual program.
The beautiful thing about like that submersion process, and I think that Alan would agree with me, is that even if, because the results are shit, across the board, like unfortunately, in terms of if you gauge success by, relapse, or not, in terms of those people who reach like homeostasis. But if they do have a clear understanding of that book, sometimes the best that you can hope for, and it's good enough, is for that seed of recovery, that knowledge that can at least arm you with, the facts of like, what is wrong with you, and perhaps, what you can do about it. And there's so many like pearls in there, and that is invaluable when you really understand the real message of recovery. There's nothing worse than when you keep fucking up and you don't know why. If you don't know what's wrong with you or what to do about it, I mean, that's how are you supposed to ever get sober if you don't even know what to do?
That's right.
Well, and I gotta be honest. Bob, I was the same way. They were talking about 90 meetings in 90 days. And I talked earlier about this sort of checklist mentality that I had prior. I had my spiritual experience that day in the center, but I turned the corner from sobriety to recovery much later down the road.
That's a good one.
And that very early on, sobriety was key for me. But at around 9 months sober, I wanted to blow my head off again. And I'll tell you, I found myself hiding in the rooms of AA. and the other A's that we have. You know, I because I was much the same way. I was going to meeting after meeting after meeting because, quite frankly, no one would hire me. I didn't know what else to do, and me with a bunch of free time on my hands is a dangerous scenario. And so I had to really understand the best thing this kid ever did for me. And I will swear by it to this day. The best thing that kid ever did to me was walk me through those steps at a rapid rate and then turn me on to someone else. And so I had very early on, I had a number of sponsors taking me through the 12 steps. And just like the three of us can read a paragraph, we're all three maybe going to see it in a different way. That's the kind of version of 12 steps that I got. And I got to understand that I had to not checklist things. I had to start processing things.
Mm-hmm.
That's when my recovery started to come into play.
Yeah.
And I went from being sober to being recovered.
There is a little bit.
I love that. I've never heard that before. That just hit me because, you know, it resonates. I think more people need to hear that. I went from sobriety, abstinence to recovery, you know, engaging in a recovery process.
There is a little bit of a shift there to kind of what we're up to at Deep Waters, which is a focus on healing trauma. But we don't need to launch completely into that. But the more advanced version of recovery is not just the plug in the jug, right? Not just not drinking, not using, not acting. However, there's nothing more important than that. Stop putting the shit in your body. And that phrase, what's wrong with you? You know, that might be a little offensive to certain people, right? But no,
it's a broad stroke. It's a broad question.
No, in the early,
I'm getting goosebumps right now because I can hear him just clear as day, and he meant that. You know,
in the early days, in the early days, that's exactly what is wrong. And what was wrong is I have a disease that is untreated. And, you know, now I'm in treatment and it's being treated. Now I can start asking the next question, which is what happened to me? And it's not, I don't blame my addiction on any of it, but I do have to deal with that pain underneath the surface. And that's a little bit different than the what's wrong with you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And diving in and really starting to process through that, you know, some of that pain. And I'm so fortunate that, you know, I got to be with my dad in these past, you know, years, sort of sober and recovered, because it allowed us to mend those fences. And I still try to continue mending them with my sister and my mother.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, there was a lot of pain in there, and it wasn't just from the family, because like I mentioned before, it's a loving family that I grew up in, but it was all those horrible relationships that I had. It was all of those horrible ideas that this thing tried to tell me.
Yeah.
It was all of those horrible belief systems that I bought into in a negative way. And I had to really get down and dirty and look at those things in order to get to a better place in my life.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started to process and stop really checklisting things that I was able to do that.
When did you make the transition to, and it's a tricky transition that we're going to talk about on next week's podcast. It's going to come out after this on Tradition 2 about the business. How do we do this 12-step thing and also be in the industry? So when did you make that transition, and how did you do it, and to helping others in a really formal way?
So that's a great question. I finally, I was telling you that I was unemployable and I was hiding out in these rooms, and there's a lovely young man, a lovely old man, who got tired of hearing me cry and whine in the rooms, and he said, "Come on, I'll give you a job," you know, and so I set out on this journey to designing and installing home theater systems, and I'll tell you, I was making a fortune, but I was miserable because, again, I was just checklisting my sobriety. I wasn't processing anything, and so one day. One day again, you know, talk about looking up into the sky and you know, sort of, you know, I need help. Well, one day I look up into the sky and I said, what am I supposed to do with my life? And we can argue this until the cows come home. I heard a voice that said, go help people.
Mm-hmm.
And I clearly I said, absolutely not. Thank you for playing. It's a shitty job with way too many hours. Nobody pays you enough. It's underappreciated. It's undervalued. And I knew how I treated all my counselors. Notice the voice said, go help people. And what I heard was, go be a counselor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, a lot of and I see this a lot in other people. You know, we get sober and we turn the edge of the sword and we want to go save the world. You know, and I want to go give everybody what I got, and nobody wants what I got. But I argued with that voice for 6 months. I said that there's no way I'm doing that. And that's part of this, what led me to the sort of processing things instead of checklisting them was finally, you know, getting to a point where, again, I want to blow my head off and coming to that place where I'm giving up. And I said, you know, if this is sobriety, I don't want anything to do with it. It sucks. And that's when another young man got a hold of me and said, you gotta really flip the script and stop arguing. You know, at some point you're going to stop arguing with that voice. And it was shortly after that that somebody walked into my driveway and stole my truck that had all of my business tools and everything in it. And my life flipped. I called a lady named Donna Dickerhoff, lovely lady, who I said, you know what, I need a job. And she said, I've been waiting for you. She said, go over to HR and fill out your stuff and tell them I sent you. And she really opened her arms and brought me into this field. I was a tech at a local treatment center.
When in your journey was that, Alan? So you got sober in 06. Now I know that because I always like messing with Alan because he got sober 2 weeks before I did. So that's my competitive edge. Whereas like I hate that because I can't beat him on that. And so you got sober in 2006. When did you start working as a tech?
In 2008. Yep. And so really got around a bunch of people, just super people that did a couple of different things for me. First of all, they put up with my shit, which is amazing in itself because they all probably should have rung me up by the flagpole. But they also taught me some really valuable things about how to care for people and how to love on people who don't really love on themselves and sort of be compassionate and be empathic and how to actively listen to people that are trying to get better and you know, whether they're trying to get better or not is none of my business, but I have to show up the same way and be consistent with each person's journey because I remember from my own journey, there are times when I walk into a treatment center and I have absolutely no idea why I'm walking into that treatment center, other than the fact that it's a roof over my head and I know they're fixing to feed me. I really just want the fire off of my ass.
We're talking about a lot of food right there for you. You're a big boy.
That's a true story.
True story.
But yeah, so these men and women got a hold of me and really, showed me how to sort of do this thing and treat people the right way. And again, it comes back to hearing that voice that said, go help people, and hearing what I heard that said, go be a counselor. Then I start on the journey of going to, back to school and that whole process of becoming a counselor and really trying to affect change in people.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Well, I think it was a year into recovery. This old timer, I think I was bragging about, starting graduate school, going to be a therapist. Yep. And I just read me the riot act after. I still got a resentment toward that guy. This was 25 years ago or something. But I've spent the last 10 years unlearning, ever since I met this Shiflet dude and his boys that are doing a whole different kind of healing. I'm telling you, man, this Central Texas model, we take it for granted. There's a juicy version of transformational work that's happening around here.
I think what you guys are so good at is you are so well educated in this regard, plus y'all's personal experience. You take this Central Texas model, as you call it, of recovery, and you incorporate it in, which I think is the biggest asset, which is just y'all's bedside manner. Y'all have huge personalities. You guys care like crazy. You guys take your clients home with you and always thinking about that. But you also combine, so you have those elements. You have the Central Texas recovery, but you also have this educational piece and y'all's skill set in terms of those letters behind your name. Now,
don't hold it against
all of those things. You're sitting pretty.
Don't hold it against
such a profound impact.
It's true. I don't want to shame it too much, but there is a lot of misinformation about the clinical aspects, especially as it has to do with addiction. It's really not that effective. Now, when we're talking about healing trauma, that's another whole animal. The 12-step recovery world could learn a little bit about trauma informed care, right? But
you're a trauma expert. You take that trauma track.
Well, I have a lot of
it. Yeah, same. You take that trauma track as well as the 12-step recovery model and all that. I mean, man, you are covering a lot of ground. Granted, personally, I think that recovery thing comes first. Get that aspect in there, and then really start kind of addressing that trauma in there. I mean, that's a recipe for success in recovery.
And then Father Bill Wigmore says, then you better find something meaningful in your life too. Or that's kind of the triad, right? Get sober, heal some of the trauma, and then do something juicy, right? So Alan Jones has found something juicy with his, you have a very unique program over there. The Wellness, Actions Wellness Group is it's not a treatment program and it's not a therapy it's a very unique deal. So actually I'd like to transition here pretty soon, Alan. Why don't you say a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of transition to making sure people know how to reach us and everything. But say a little bit about what you're up to now.
Yeah, thanks. I talk about bumbling along, and I've got great people around me, and that's one of the ways that this thing continues to unfold. But Actions Wellness Group was started a little over 3 years ago, 3 years ago, by myself and another gentleman named Scott Lynch. That Actions stands for any change towards improving one's nature successfully. So we're really trying to not just look at sobriety, although again, that's such an important piece to the puzzle. but we've put together a program that works in what SAMHSA defines as the 8 dimensions of wellness. And we do it through counseling, we do it through coaching, we do it through interventions, and just trying to allow people to grow into their recovery rather than grow into their sobriety. And so we want to try to look at the whole pie, as it were, and what we try to do really well and sort of hang our hat on, if you will, is wrangling all the pieces of the puzzle together to again, I liken it to the map of the world, you know, putting the person back together so the world kind of fits. And that's what we're trying to
Here's
do.
a little quote. I have an Alan Jones quote from his blog, which will come out the same week as this. You ready for this? Through great sponsorship and the men in the rooms, I have managed to put the man back together in my own bumbling way, continuing to discover the man I want to become. The world has managed to take care of itself. Amazing. The world somehow is going to be all right without us fixing it all, huh?
That's right. I mean, and that's something that I try to live by today. And I got to get out of my own way. I got to quit trying to put everything in place. I planned a picnic once and it rained. So yeah. I can't control things I can't control. And I just have to concentrate on my own actions.
A buddy of mine gave me this piece. If you're in a pool, right, and you got this beach ball and you're trying to grab it, it's going to go away from you, right? I mean, I don't know if this is the right metaphor and a right analogy or not, but if I'll just sit there and get calm, the wind will probably blow it to me eventually if I'll have some patience and quit trying to make it all happen out here. It's really, I've spent a lot of time doing that. I'm getting old and
that's
tired.
Right. And it comes back to that kid telling me he's got a 6-year plan for a 6-minute mindset.
Yep.
And I liken it to, I love to grill. I love to smoke chickens and briskets, and I'm a horrible. I've ruined more good quality meat than I've produced on the table for folks to eat. But I love to get out there in the backyard and put some meat on a fire. And we all know beyond a shadow of a doubt that a hot dog tastes much better coming off of a grill. But I also know that I can stick that hot dog in the microwave and I can eat it right now. And I don't have to worry about stoking the fire. And that's what this sort of deal is I got to get rid of my I want it now mentality, get out of my own way.
I love that word bumbling, because that goes like in line with it, because it's like that's a great way to look at my recovery, yours, Bob's, and all that, because I know that we're all bumblers, but it's just like it has not been a checklist kind of deal. I don't think for us. We have bumbled and but it's amazing through bumbling it. Here we all are with, a lot of years between us all, and we're still here. It's just like, it doesn't make sense, but it makes perfect sense. And I love that word.
Bumps and bruises, a lot of bumps and bruises on this road. And like I was saying, and thank you for reading that, Bob. There's a lot of great men in my life that have put their arms around me and allowed me the opportunity to grow into this, sort of shape of a man that I'm in. And I've got a lot more to do, but again, it's going to be through the aid of the people in my life that I surround myself with.
Alan, thank you for being so authentic and real. This was hearing your story was really juicy for me today. I think Sex with the Gorilla was my favorite. Yeah, I
can't get that out of my head.
Yeah,
I'm just visualizing it, and it is very dead on. But I'm just like, man, that's harsh. Really harsh.
But appreciate you, brother. The humor and the truth. Really good really wonderful to be with you. Would you let folks know how they can reach you, what the website, the phone number, all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. It's www.actionswellness.com. It's 512-955-4364. And we're open 28 hours a day, 15 days a week, it feels like. And just
that's the business we're in, brother.
Yep. And it's an honor, and we'll be glad. Phone conversations are always free.
Yeah. Thanks, Alan. Now, Cole Shiflet is the founder and director of Solstice Recovery. He's got a bunch of other great stuff going on, but Cole, why don't you let people say a little bit about Solstice and then give some contact info, will you?
Sure, of course. And again, come back how you were talking, Alan, about, putting your arm around people. Quick, I want to say thank you both for, it feels like y'all's arms are always both around me, and I want to thank you both for always providing me a safe space to where I could just be me. I think I love you guys. And so that stuff means the world for me. And so, yes, I run a small little nonprofit. It's a 12-man center. It's called Solstice Recovery. We're there for the people like Alan and myself that have been through a lot of different treatment centers and tried a bunch of different things. And maybe you just need to get away for a while just to kind of get back through this body of work, get some hope and mojo back, before you're even ready to go out there and even entertain getting in the cage with the gorilla again, just so you have kind of a better chance. Our website is solsticerecovery.org. On there, you'll find our admissions line information, more information about our program. Let us know, call us. Like I almost talk about, all phone calls are free, even if we can help point in the right direction to make connections with the right people. We're here to help.
Yeah. Solstice is a very unique deal where you're going to get the real deal recovery, but you're not going to get it crammed down your throat either. And I'm also told there's a whole lot of fun. There's actually fun to be had out there.
Oh, that's the only thing that's kept me going is I love to laugh. I love to have fun. If I'm not digging it, I'm not going to keep doing it. So there'll be a lot of arms around you, to safe spots for you to be yourself and kind of embrace that inner idiot in you that we have so much fun with, especially when we're together.
Yeah. All right, Cole, thanks. Our program manager, Nicole Chargois, is, I believe, is still with us, and she's going to tell a little bit about how to get a hold of us here at Deep Waters and what we're up to.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Thanks, Cole, and thanks, Alan, for sharing your story. I really enjoyed that. If you'd like more information about our programs or this podcast, you can reach us at deepwatersrecovery.com. Our direct number is 512-677-7847. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow in order to support this mission, the mission of recovery, healing, and launching into the lives of authenticity. Dr. Beare is the recovery and trauma guy, and he sees a limited amount of individual clients, and he has ongoing group programming. He will tell you a little bit more about the Deep Waters Intensive that's going to happen spring 2021. So I'll let him tell you about that. And then if you would like to bring sustainable trauma resolution into the curriculum of your facility, the Deep Waters Intensive and integration groups may be a good fit. I'll give you that contact information one more time, 512-677-7847. And you can also email us at admin, @deepwatersrecovery.com.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks, Nicole.
Nicole is a superstar who has been picking up stuff that's fallen off the wagon for the last couple of years, and she's transitioning onto some other stuff, but she'll always be a founding partner in Deep Waters Recovery. There's so much of you in this. I just want to publicly say thank you for your good work here, Nicole. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I've loved working for you for the past 2 years, and I'm so excited to see what Deep Waters develops into.
I think it's true too. I've asked her, why are you leaving? Well, she wants to open it. She's not resentful toward me. I really think she's not just like, can you imagine that? All right. Thanks. Yes, the Deep Waters Intensive is a 3-day trauma resolution process where we use psychodrama and bioenergetics to get down into that trauma that is lodged in the body. Cole Shiflet just went out to the Bridge to Recovery out in Kentucky. So you know what I'm talking about. There's only a few places that do this work, probably summer by the time we open up things enough to do that. However, March 26th and 27th, for those of you who are interested in learning the skills of action method healing of trauma, there's a certification and facilitator training. That's March 26th and 27th. We're going to do it at Alpha 180, which is downtown Austin. And it's you can get more information on the website. All right. So anybody want to say anything else before we kind of let go of this for today? Next week, we will, on the next podcast, it will be a conversation about Tradition 2, which is about this concept of how could we possibly not have leaders? How can you not have leaders? Well, we do have leaders, but they don't govern. That's kind of a mind fuck. Just sit with that for a minute. All right. Anything else?
Guys, I just want to thank you again for having me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm always honored in y'all's presence. And I had a great time. I appreciated doing this.
Good man.
I love
Alan
the company,
Jones.
man. You guys are the best.
Appreciate you,
Nicole, I'm so glad that you're getting away from Dr. Beare. You talk about things falling off the wagon. I can only imagine how much shit that is that fell off the wagon. So congratulations.
2 years is enough for anybody, right, Nicole? 2 years. Put that in the job description for your for your person that comes after you. 2 years. Okay. Thank you again, everybody. You're in the deep waters now.